What's going on, everyone? It's Jack and here from Nothing But Tech. Hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about the iPhone X. I've been using it for a while, so I want to give you guys my review on it. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that you probably noticed right away about the iPhone X is the design change. So the iPhone X is Apple's most radical design change yet, in my opinion. We got the glass back, the glass front, the stainless steel sandwich in between. It just looks sexy. This phone, it's a great looking phone, and that's with just talking about the material choice. The screen up front is also a bezel-less display, and it looks stunning. You only have that little bezel up top, which carries some sensors, and the camera, which I'll discuss more in a little bit. But the screen just looks gorgeous. It's at 5.8 inches, it's QHD, it's sharp, it's vibrant, it's accurate, it's stunning. The display also has new technology, which basically adapts to the colors in its surrounding area. So instead of just looking really blue in a warm area or really warm in a cool area, the display will sense the surrounding light and everything, and it will adapt so it fits in and it looks more realistic and more natural, and it's easier on the eyes. And it's a very subtle thing, but I've been using it, and when I turn it off and turn it back on, I definitely see a big difference. I'm a huge fan of the display in this phone. It's one of the best in the market. When I'm consuming media, even looking at pictures, I don't know, the phone and the screen in general just look really great. And it's bezel-less too, which means that it's a really big screen, but the form factor of the phone is not big at all. You can definitely use it in one hand, and I'm just really impressed with it. I think that it's a big improvement over past years. It's one of the best displays that Apple has ever created. Okay, so continuing on with design, you will see that the iPhone X is a little bit heavier, and that is because of the stainless steel and the glass. So the glass will enable wireless charging, and it will also enable a little bit more of a reflective back. I think it's a very premium looking phone, and it needs to be for how expensive and how premium the price is. But I think that the material choice here is definitely really good. It looks really nice, and although I haven't used the wireless charging a ton, it's definitely a nice feature to have, and I think that a lot of people are going to be really excited about it. So continuing on with that bezel-less display, because it's bezel-less, there's not much room for other things on the screen like there was in past years. So you're going to see a little bit of a smaller speaker up top, and that's because there's so many other internals up top to work with facial recognition, which I'm about to discuss. And you also are not going to see a home button at the bottom of the display. So now, because there's no home button at the bottom of the display, the software now relies on gestures. So it's a swipe up to get into the phone, it's a swipe up to get out of applications, it's a swipe up and hold to get into the multitasking area. So there definitely is a little bit of a learning curve with this phone and the new gestures that you need to do certain things that the home button used to do. For example, when you want to activate Siri now, you now have to hold down that power button, and because of that, now when you want to shut off the phone, it's two buttons. When you want to take a screenshot, you have to use the volume button. So there are a few things that it's going to be like, okay, that's different, kind of annoying, but you're going to get used to it like right away. I don't really find it annoying anymore. I'm fully on board with it, and I think that the screen makes it completely worthwhile. It's just a really good display, as already mentioned. But I think that's definitely a point to note, that it's going to take a sec or two to get used to. And another thing that's going to take a sec or two to get used to is the Touch ID, or the lack thereof, and instead using facial recognition. So facial recognition is what Apple introduced as a new biotech way of getting into the phone, and it works pretty phenomenally. It's able to identify me when I have sunglasses on, if I'm wearing a hat, if in the morning and I look different than I look when I get ready. It's able to identify all of that and still unlock. It uses a lot of different points on the face to identify me from someone else, or you from someone else. So it's really secure, actually. It's really convenient, and although I wasn't fully on board when it came out, I'm now really in love with it. I think it's really cool and intuitive and easy. There are some times where my phone is on the table or something, and then it's a little bit annoying because I don't want to have to lift up my phone to be able to unlock it, so I end up having to use a passcode. So there are a few times like that, but I think overall Apple did a really good job implementing it this year. It's really seamless and it's really accurate, so I'm pretty impressed with it. So that's another thing where it's like, wow, that's kind of annoying, but you get used to it right away, and all these things that you think are going to be a hassle and annoying end up actually kind of being a non-event. They're really easy to get used to, and I think that Apple did a really good job showing you when you're setting up your phone what's new about it, and then also just continuing to drive that point forward in their commercials and everything like that. I think that if you just give it some time, you'll get used to it really quickly. Other things to note would be the camera. So the camera is now in a vertical orientation, which will allow for better use with augmented reality, which is a huge theme in iOS 11, and it will also allow for better portrait lighting and stuff like that. So in past years, the iPhones just had portrait mode, and that was basically a way to blur the background and put the subject in focus. But with this generation of iPhones, you will now get portrait lighting mode. So that's a bunch of different modes to affect the way the image looks with the portrait blurry background already. So you get studio light, contour light, stage light mono, and then 2 regular modes, and these actually work really great. Studio light kind of makes the subject a little bit brighter as if the photo was taken in a studio environment. Contour light adds some natural shadows around the subject to add some definition. Stage light and stage light mono make the background black and the subject in focus, so there's a stark contrast between the two. And then the 2 regular modes are just what you've seen in the past. But I think that all the lighting modes work really, really well, and I'm excited to see them continue to improve, but they're really solid right now. And the iPhone X's regular images also are really good. They're crisp, they're sharp, they're saturated, the exposure is really good, low light performance is really good. The camera is just overall a really, really good camera this year. I'm extremely impressed with it, and I'd be happy taking a lot of images on it for my Instagram feed for sending them around. I'm just really impressed with it overall. Performance on this phone is also really good. It's really fast, it's smooth. There definitely are a few hiccups occasionally, but I think as the software continues to come out, those will be resolved. Things like the phone just taking an extra second to get something done. But I think that overall, for most of the time, it's a really fast phone, it's a really smooth phone, and I think it's one of the fastest phones I've ever used. It's just a really, really good performer. It has the latest and greatest chips and everything, so you would expect it to be, but it works really well for really intensive games, for texting, for taking videos and photos. It's just a really good phone overall, and it really handles like everything that you try to make it do, whether it's keeping a bunch of apps open at the same time or searching something or taking a video. It's just a really solid performer, and that also translates to really good battery life because it's very efficient. So the battery life on this phone is also great this year. You can expect to get a lot of time with the phone. You're probably not going to have to plug it in during the day, which is something that you can't say about most flagships. So I'm really impressed with the battery life, considering that there's not a ton of space for a battery in a phone with this many internals and this much high-end tech, but the battery life on this phone is very solid. The front-facing camera also packs portrait lighting mode this year. And I don't know who was asking for this, but I'm surprised, like, people are really into this. Like, the average consumers are coming up to me, and they're like, yo, like, you have the iPhone X, can I try out that portrait lighting mode for the selfie? I don't know who needs that blurry background and the changing of the lights for the selfie. I don't know if anyone's, like, really looking at a selfie and saying, that background is not blurry enough. But if you ask for it and you're hyped about it, it's here. It works pretty well. The difference between the background and the subject look pretty good, and the different lighting modes are also present on the front-facing camera. So if you're someone that likes to take a lot of pictures with the front-facing camera, I think you're going to be pretty happy here. So that's the iPhone X. I'm really impressed with it. I think that it's a very good phone, and I think that if you're interested in the iPhone X and you end up getting one, you're going to be really happy with it. But let me know what you think of the iPhone X in the comments down below. Subscribe right here so you don't miss anything else that could be coming out in the future, and you should check out my other content right here. I hope I remember to put these in. Thank you guys all so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye!